So what do we have here?
Some ice water and some cake that I did not bake.
Now, you said you used to bake,
I
but
used
being
to-
mayor doesn't allow a lot of time for that, I would imagine.
I used to like to bake sweet potato muffins. I was not like a prolific baker, but I would bake sweet potato muffins, and I still bake around the holidays. I bake sweet potato pies, but my husband was laughing at me a couple. I don't remember why I went to a potluck, and someone had made the most delicious peach cobbler ever, and I brought him home a piece. And he said, I remember when you used to make peach cobbler. I said, well, I didn't make it a lot. He said, but yeah, at least you used to make it at the holidays. He says, but now you don't do it at all. And I said, yeah, because making that dough, rolling out all that dough is a lot of work.
Yeah.
So
I would rather bake something than cook a meal ever. So baking I can do. Cooking, not so much. But I hear lemon is your favorite. Is that right? Why lemon?
I don't know, maybe because when I was a kid, my mom, she used to make that lemon bundt cake, the one where you make the icing with powdered sugar and lemon juice and then you drizzle it. So I just love lemon.
I feel like everybody's favorite has some sort of story attached. It's never just, oh, it tastes good. There's some kind of story. My mom, my grandma, somebody did something with it. So as mayor, what are your evenings normally like?
Well, I get home pretty late, a lot of evenings, not every evening. When I get home, my family's already eaten. I would say probably that's the biggest sacrifice I've made with public office, because before I was a council member, I was very committed to family meal time. You know, I'm one of those moms, I believe my kid won't get on drugs if I have family meal, you know, so I used to cook Monday through Thursday, and then we would eat out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but we used to have dinner in the dining room Monday through Thursday before I got on the city council. So now when I get home, they've usually already eaten, so I'll kind of scrounge up something to eat, and then sit down and talk to Rodney a little bit, ask Morgan how her day was, find out if she's finished her homework, watch a little TV, and you know, just relax, prepare for the next day.
Watch the news, watch KSAT, I imagine.
Oh, definitely.
So is it hard for you to come home and know that you've missed that part of their day? Does it ever get to you?
Sometimes, but you know, I think that there's, I try to achieve that balancing act. I mean, Morgan gets to do a lot of cool stuff with me that if I weren't in this role, she wouldn't have a chance to do. Like in a couple of weeks, I'm going with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce on a trade mission to Spain, and she's going to come with me.
Wow.
So that kind of makes up for those evenings where I got home after 8.
Yeah. So that has to be, I guess, the biggest difference from a council member to a mayor.
Well,
scheduling.
when I was council member, you know, I spent evenings at a lot of community meetings as well, more community meetings. As mayor, now I spend more time at events in the evenings. But I would say, yeah, that the schedule definitely is more brutal. As council member, I felt more flexibility to be able to not go to events or, you know, carve out a day where I kind of take the day off. But I have a hard time doing that now.
Yeah.
In fact, the joke in the office right now, I'm taking off on my birthday, and everybody keeps trying to think of just one thing. Well, can you just do this one thing? So actually, I do think I have a meeting with a senator the morning of my birthday. I said, well, he's a senator, so I'll have breakfast with him, but after that, I'm not doing anything else.
I bet that's rare to have a day off. Yeah, I mean, getting here this evening was a bit of a challenge, so, but I guess it's all worth it for you.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's really gratifying. It's wonderful to be able to give back to the community that's given me so much.
I have to ask you, where did you get this rocker?
Oh, Restoration. I think this was Restoration Hardware.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. It reminds me, my great-grandmother had one like it.
It's old-fashioned.
But it was like the olive green, and that kind of
Yeah.
putrid yellow
Yeah.
color that was
Yeah.
once popular for some reason.
And we used to have the chairs too, but when we lived on another side of town where the neighborhoods are supposed to be a little nicer, somebody stole the chairs off our porch.
That wasn't very nice.
No.
So you were talking about why you like moving. Most people
Oh.
don't like moving.
Yes, Rodney and I are house junkies. He loves having a project, and so I guess we kind of enjoy the process. To me, I love reimagining my life in a different space. I don't know why I think that's fun, because most people can't get past the headache of moving. So during our time being married, we've lived in 4 houses, and we've built 2 from the ground up, and we've remodeled 2. And this one we've stayed in the longest. And I want to stay here for a while. This one is beautiful. I mean, you can't kind of beat this location.
So new or old, which is your favorite?
Old is my favorite.
Why?
Old houses just have a story, you know, they have a feel. It's wonderful to think about the other people that lived their lives here, the character, the architecture, the fabric of the neighborhood, you know, just love old houses.
So you and Rodney will have been married 17?
17 years in a couple weeks, May 15th.
So how did you guys meet?
We met, I was here for a summer job when I was in graduate school at UNC Chapel Hill, and I came down here for an internship, and I'd been here just a couple weeks, and someone who worked in the same building invited me to visit their church, and so I went to visit the church, and I sat in the pew behind Rodney.
Church is a pretty good place to meet a man,
That's
I would
a good
imagine.
place to meet a man.
And now church it's played a really important role, a big role in your life. You seem very involved.
Yeah, my faith is really central to, you know, what I do and how I do it. I feel like I'm living out, you know, what God has called me to do through this public service role. So, and I certainly pray for wisdom often in doing this job.
Do you tend to get to go to church every Sunday with your schedule?
I do. My staff kind of knows that, you know, is I don't plan events, or I get invited to events that are on Sunday morning. I usually don't go. The one thing I do that I have enjoyed is I visit other churches. I've been visiting churches across the city and meeting San Antonians in that way, and that's been a great experience.
So it was a job that brought you to San Antonio. Is that right?
It was a summer job.
A
summer job, but then it was this ring that brought me back when I finished graduate school.
So now you're not from here, you're from New York.
Yes.
That had to be very different, coming from New York to San Antonio. Was it a hard transition back then?
Yeah, it probably was. And I think in the beginning it was a little bit harder because when we first got married, so Rodney's first dream house was a country dream. And we lived 30 miles south of the city, right near Pleasanton.
So a New York girl was living out a country dream.
Yes, yes.
That had to be interesting.
Yeah, it didn't work out too well. So. Put the house on the market after 2 years and got into the city, and that made things a little easier.
I bet.
Yeah.
So did you ever think that you would be living here? I mean, when you came down for that summer internship, is this some place that you thought,
no,
I could be here?
No, it was not. It just was because I grew up on the East Coast. That was my whole frame of reference. I never had any intention of moving I didn't want to go back to New York, but I thought I would end up in Atlanta, Washington, D.C., or Charlotte. That was kind of like my short list. I hadn't previously planned to move to Texas.
So how many years now have you been here?
It'll be 18 years the end of this month.
18 years.
Yeah.
Did you ever think you'd end up running the place?
No, not at all. That was never my plan.
Was a public office ever part of your plan?
No. No.
So how did you end up getting into it?
Well, I'm an urban planner by training, and so actually my dream job, if you had asked me in May of 1998 when I graduated from UNC and came here with my master's degree in my hot little hand, my dream job was to be the executive director of a faith-based nonprofit that was engaged in housing and community development work. And so when I moved here, you know, I felt the pressure to get a job because basically Rodney was supporting me. I was living in one of his rent houses, driving his car, and I didn't have any income, and that nonprofit job didn't present itself. So I applied for a job with the city of San Antonio, and I got hired at the city of San Antonio in August of 1998. And so that's kind of where I started my journey with public service. I worked for the city for 6 years, and then I went to work at a nonprofit, and I was there for about 5 years, and I just wanted to do more. I wanted to have a bigger impact than I'd been able to as a staffer at the city or in the nonprofit sector. And some community members suggested to me that maybe I should consider running for city council. And I really thought it was a crazy idea because I was like, well, I'm not always politically correct. I like to speak my mind. You know, I don't know if that's going to be a good fit. But then I thought, well, maybe this is, you know, this is the opportunity that I've been looking for, because I had been feeling a real feeling of restlessness about needing to do more to have an impact on the community. So I had worked at the nonprofit. I'd been on boards of other nonprofits. I'd been on the city planning commission. I'd done a whole bunch of different things, but I felt like I could give more, I could do more. And so when those folks asked me to consider running for city council, I said, well, maybe that's the way that I could do more. And so I took a chance and I ran, and I won my first election in a runoff by 54 votes. So I know the value of every single vote. I wouldn't be here without those 54 people.
Yeah, and here you are as mayor.
Yes.
So do you consider yourself a politician?
No, I do not. Though certainly in order for me to be effective in this job, it is a political role, I have to learn and cultivate those political skills in order to be effective. But I don't consider myself a politician.
Sometimes, you know, people have said, you know, you're obviously conservative politically, but you seem like a conservative person. Your personality just seems conservative. Has that been hard for you, having to kind of do the politicking and do the meeting and greeting, and just knowing that that comes with the territory?
Well, I have to, sometimes I guess I've learned over the years. I've been doing it for a while now. I've been on council since '09. Sometimes I have to push myself a little bit harder. I guess I am, I'm quiet if you don't know me. But I think a lot of times when people get to know me, they're a little bit surprised. They're like, oh, she's not what I expected. But I don't make it my business it's not my natural inclination to make it my business to know everybody in the room or for them to know, you know, about me. But in this role, I have to, you know, that is part of the job. Funny thing though, my one area where my staff have to push me, when I arrive at events, the first thing I do is go after the food. And so my staff have to tell, I remember one time Jill told me, she says, Myra, there were like 10 people trying to talk to you and you just headed straight for the buffet. I was like, I'm hungry, the food looks so good. I didn't see them.
So if somebody wants to meet you, they should just line up in front of the buffet, and then you'll have to get through them to get to the buffet. That's pretty funny. So what would be something that, you know, we're always talking to you about big issues and doing these quick interviews. So what would be something that you think people would be surprised to know about you?
Well, I don't think anyone should be surprised anymore, but maybe a year ago people would have been surprised to know that I love to dance, and I have to restrain myself.
Where
Where
have you found yourself restraining yourself to bust a move?
Well, you know, I want to maintain the dignity of the office, but I love to dance, so people might find that surprising.
Do you have a signature move?
Well, I've been caught, I've been recorded on, and it's been posted on Facebook, me doing the wobble, and it kind of went viral for a minute there, so that might be considered my signature.
Hey, it's not the hokey pokey, so that's a step in the right direction, I guess. So how do you, I think something that, you know, a lot of women especially would want to know is how do you balance being mayor and being a mom at the same time?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that, you know, this whole idea of balance is a myth. Or, you know, balance is personal. My balance may not be your balance. So therefore, it's hard for me to give advice on what someone else's balance should be. But I guess I would say that for me, you know, I just try to have real special times where it's quality time. We may not have the quantity of time that other people would consider to be balanced, but those great trips, you know, we carve out time for family vacations, and then I just try to make some of the brief moments special. You know, every now and again, if I don't have something to do on Saturday morning, I get up, I cook breakfast for the family, I set the table with china for breakfast, you know, or something like that, and they appreciate that. So I mean, that's kind of how I'm doing it right now. It's working okay, but you know, I think it would be unrealistic for me at this point to expect more than that.
Do you think that it's a myth that women really can do all of it, have it all, do it all, and give 100% on, you know, your professional life and as a mom?
I do. I think it's a myth, but for some people, you know, maybe they're able to get a little closer to it than me. You know, I remember in 2008 when I was contemplating running for council, well, had pretty much decided I was going to run for council the next year. Morgan was 5, I was 38. I said to my husband, if I lose this election, let's have another baby. He said, okay. Guess what? I won. I have one child.
Wow, talk about fate letting it decide everything.
So, I mean, for some people it would have been more important, you know, to continue to expand the family, but, you know, I think you have to make choices and prioritize and go where you feel led.
Is there something that you and Morgan have that you like to do together, even if it's something just here at home?
Yeah, Morgan and I, we love to watch Say Yes to the Dress on Friday nights. If I get home early on Friday night, we will for 2 hours watch women pick their wedding gowns.
I used to be addicted to that show before I got married. And once I picked my own, I was over it.
But I've been married for 17 years. Why do I still like, that's my husband said, why do you, but then he sits down, he says, I don't think that one is, I think she should go with the mermaid.
He knows he's in a house with 2 women. He's ruled out. I mean, he will be overruled, I would imagine. That's pretty funny. So
Morgan and I also enjoy occasionally tea time. I almost served you hot tea, but I said, well, it's a little warm out. But we love to collect teacups and teapots. So, and then we'll sit down and just have a little special cup of tea together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. I have a friend who's super into the same thing. We have tea all the time. She has so many teapots. We always have tea. So what about your family? Do you still have family in New York?
My family, no, I don't have family in New York anymore because my family is actually from North Carolina.
Oh, okay.
They were part of that whole kind of great migration. You know, my mom got on a bus to New York 3 days after her high school graduation because she wasn't going to college and she didn't want to be a maid. She was in North Carolina in 1963, so she thought she could have better opportunities in New York. So, but the interesting trend in that part of the nation, so of course millions follow that same path, but around the neighborhood I grew up in, that was everybody's story. They were from North Carolina, South Carolina, Virginia, some from Florida. But in the mid-90s, a lot of them started cashing out because they bought homes. And my family, along with many others, sold their home and moved back to North Carolina, which by that point, mid-90s, was a lot more friendly. You know, they moved to a neighborhood they never could have dreamed of living in when they were growing up. So I don't actually have any family, just close friends. My best friend, she's like family. My best friend Allison, she's still there in New York City.
So do you ever go back to New York or to North Carolina?
I go to North Carolina a lot. I have not. I feel kind of guilty. Allison has come here to see me probably the last 2 or 3 times, and I haven't been to New York in a while, and I feel kind of bad about it. But I go to North Carolina a lot. I was there about 3 weeks ago. My cousin died, and I had to go to a funeral, but we were there for Christmas. We were there this Christmas and last Christmas.
Okay.
As well.
So what family do you have that's still there in North Carolina?
My mom, my dad that raised me, my sister, who's just had my first nephew. He's 3 months old now. My grandmother, I call her the original Mud Deer. We always call her Mud Deer growing up. Mud Deer is 94.
Oh, wow.
So I have Mud Deer there, several of my mom's siblings, and my cousins.
You have one sister, or how many siblings?
I have one sister.
One sister.
Just have one sister.
Oh, wow. So you're pretty close with all of them? Everybody still keep in touch? I would imagine if you go visit once a year or so.
Yeah. We keep in touch.
Can your mom believe that her daughter is a mayor?
No, I think she has a hard time wrapping her mind around it.
So where do you see yourself? This is always the dreaded question.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years from now?
I don't know. 5 years from now, I could still be mayor in 5 years. So let's go further out.
Okay, let's say 10 years. 10 years. Where do you see yourself in 10
because we have term limits. 10 years. In 10 years, Morgan's 12. She'll be in college or finishing up college. So, wow.
So you could be an empty nester
So
at
I
that
could do
point.
all kind of stuff at that point. So but I don't know. I mean, like I said, I don't consider myself to be a politician per se. So I'm not necessarily wedded to staying on the elected path. Once term limited from being mayor. I'm interested in education because I see that as still as the great equalizer. I mean, I'm a planner, but community development is my passion, and I see education as a very effective way to change lives and break the chains of generational poverty. So that could be a avenue that I'd pursue. Rodney and I, we want to buy a vacation home in Galveston. So 10 years from now, I hope that I'll be going down to Galveston at least twice a month and sitting on the porch of a house that's 150 years old where I can walk to the beach.
It sounds like you have your eye on something.
We have our eye on an area.
Oh, okay.
We want to buy a house in Galveston that's even older than this one. That's where we could walk to the beach.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll be doing that and just enjoying, some more quality time with him and Morgan.
Have you thought about a higher office, state level, higher than that?
I haven't really. A lot of other people have been doing thinking for me on that. Sometimes I read about it in the paper. But no, I don't have any designs on any higher offices, but I never imagined that I would be mayor, so I don't know what God has in store for me.
So what do you think your legacy is going to be as mayor?
My legacy as mayor,
is it too early to think about that?
well, no, because that needs to be part of what drives me every day when I go to work, because, time goes by so fast. You kind of have to keep those big picture vision ideas in mind to help you plan out what you should be doing day to day, week to week, month to month. But, I'm not really the type of person where there's a signature project that I want to have my name on necessarily. But, this is a wonderful community, and we're a prosperous community, but I think certainly I'd love to see more San Antonians have the tools to be able to tap into that prosperity. And so I talk a lot about how we as a community need to be focused on breaking the chains of generational poverty. And so that's what I want my legacy to center around. More San Antonians having access and opportunities and having safe, stable, mixed income neighborhoods available throughout the city, that kids that are born here would not feel that their life trajectory or life outcomes or even life expectancy is dictated based on the zip code where they were born.
Is there anything else that you think is really important that when you thought about doing this interview that you wanted to make sure people knew about you?
No, you're taking for granted that I had time to think about what we were going to talk about. Let me just be real with you. I was just trying to get here in time for the interview. I really just